What's raging, gamers? Welcome to Rage Quit Video Game Talk Show. How you doing, HenricK the Wreck?
You know me, it's a Wednesday, and we're here to talk about some video games.
Yeah, that's right. So we might as well get right on into it, because we always like to start off the show with a bang and show you guys a lot of viral content that is circulating all across the World Wide Web. So let's get it. Marvel Rivals is still crushing it a month later, holding on to 90% of its player base. It really is remarkable. And apparently, nobody's rage quit yet. And speaking of cosmic powers, Susan Storm got hit with enough radiation to rewrite her DNA, giving her invisible stealth mode and unbreakable force fields. It's joining the party. Everybody's loving it. But apparently, I don't know about you, HenricK. I don't know if you've seen a lot of this, but like some streamers have missed the memo about her saving the universe and are too busy simping over her looks. It's a bit cringy, right? So with that said, have y'all seen what Reed Richards can do? I mean, forget the dude that can stretch into a human pretzel. Why do they have to make our favorite superheroes to be so kinky? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, let's go ahead and take a look.
See what you got. Wait. No, they gave him the fantastic back chop. Hey, yo, take it. Oh! Yo!
Yeah, I think that this is my
Wild
friend when we're playing, because he's been playing Mr. Fantastic a lot, really trying to one-trick that character, and this is how he is the entire time.
Yeah, he must be playing on a PS5 console. He's easy to click the share button, get that 30-second clip, and then it's like, where's it go from there? I mean, it's beyond cringy. It's like when, you know, guys start talking about when Mr. Incredible, Mrs. Incredible joined, you know, the Fortnite world, and then everybody was all talking about that big old dong-a-dong. It was like, what are we doing? This is weird. We're playing a children's game. But anyways, that is his wife, to be fair. Over 33,000 people are justifying this new gameplay mechanic.
You know what? You are right in some respect, yeah.
In some respect. The fantastic back shot is crazy. Yeah, that's a little wild. I can't believe he just coined something that is probably going to stick around for the eternity of this game. And then Venom is no longer safe from it. Wait, what?
Hey, yo.
Pause. Pause.
Hey.
With over 1,000 people. That is so freaking sus. But man, people are wild. But like, HenricK, have you ever played a game where the tutorial feels like it was designed by someone who thinks the fun should be earned through suffering? Have you felt that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Some tutorials are just painful to go through.
Oh, so true, man. It's so painfully obvious, like, what to do. So you try to think that you can, like, jump ahead thinking, surely this is the way to speed things up. Only to realize that the game is just sitting there like, nah, you're going to just have to wait this one out, okay? Just let us coach you through this thing. So, yep, we've all been there, questioning our life choices over a forced crouch walk segment. You know who you are, The Last of Us. All right, let's go ahead and roll the clip.
Take this grenade, aim for that target right there, and when you're ready, pull the pin and throw. Grenades are super useful when it comes to clearing out waves of enemies, but be careful, friendlies are nearby. Not quite, but man, that was close. Here, try again. Take this grenade and aim for that target.
What pops up next is the whole thing to not shoot civilians or something like that, or not shoot friends.
Yeah, doesn't that remind you of Halo Combat Involved? You know, the whole trilogy, the OG, like where you always go, I think I'm going to test out the friendly fire. We all were there. I mean, at least if you were born.
And then you kill too many of the Marines, either on accident or on purpose, and they turn on you and shoot you instead. You know, and then you die.
I love that. That was like groundbreaking at the time. It was like, oh my gosh, these NPCs can react in real time. They know what the hell is going on. I am going after the whole squad. I'm taking no prisoners. Their eyes always open, even got knocked. Yeah, I mean, isn't that always the truth? They're always so startled.
Skyrim does that all the time too. You know, you take down someone, you look at them on the ground, they look like they're still alive.
Maybe that can all change with Navita's new AI technology. Trust me, we will be breaking that down later on in the show. I forgot which Call of Duty, but this is why they started giving you potatoes to throw instead of grenades. Wasn't that a classic? Wasn't that a classic? Wasn't that in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2? If I'm wrong, somebody can correct me in the chat box. But that is some pretty legendary times. I think they were.
I mean, it
trolling
is
us.
a perfect kind of replacement for a grenade. It's the right size and everything, right?
Exactly. And oh, you missed that one. Try another. I know. Always constantly pushing you through. But hey, you know what? You got to start somewhere, right? But like, as VR gaming keeps leveling up, there's always that gamer that's ready to prove that they're the undisputed champ of virtual gun shooter arcade. And the type that, the ones who show up with not just with the skills, but I love the cats that are in full cosplay. It's like they're auditioning for like a low budget action film or like a horror. You know what I'm talking about, HenricK? I mean, it's equal parts impressive and hilarious. And so you got to give kudos. This guy is going all out at your local arcade shop.
Every kid walking into an arcade and seeing this, whether it was this guy or some other guy, you wanted to be that guy.
Yeah,
you wanted to be looking that cool playing the video game in the arcade.
Or it's the guy that works at Dave & Buster's and it's like, oh my gosh, it's this mofo again. Every Friday night, I'm coming in. We got to get security, make sure that's not a real gun. I got to say that cosplay was pretty legendary with the Resident Evil 2
Leon
character.
Kennedy.
Exactly. Yeah. That was like pure spot on. So you got to give people credit when they go full cosplay gear. But let's go right into the comments because the very first one's like, you like that? You like that? Like the Kirk Cousins. I love that screenshot. That is perfect. That's going to be his new Twitter bio, or
there you go,
or Tinder.
Yeah, put that on his dating profile.
Exactly, that's a winner right there. Keeper, he has the camera movements memorized. That's a fan right there. You could tell that he's
played this so many times. He knows the entire game back to back.
Exactly. He's trying to master this gameplay with one token drop. Not multiple, one playthrough. And we got the last comment here that says, this is actually cool as F. Almost the equivalent of DDR, Dance Dance Revolution players destroying a song. Like, they know the whole dance routine. So, like, I love that people are embracing this guy's talent. And it's actually like, yeah, he's not fooling us with just the cosplay. He's actually holding it down at our local arcade shop. So I think that's really, really cool. Keep supporting them, man. Like in times of need, brother, like we can't just rely on just the OGs like Dave & Buster's or Bullwinkles of the world. You know what I mean? Like we got to have some of those local nickels that we used to grow up with back in the day. But we want to take a moment right now during the Rage Quit Video Game Talk Show to remind you guys, if you're not following us on our YouTube channels, this is mine. So go ahead and scan the QR code, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss a live show.
Yeah, and here's my QR code. Go ahead and scan that right there. It'll lead you to my YouTube channel, and you'll find great content from a variety of different genres there. So go check it out. Leave a comment. I'm going to reply to you if you do.
Oh, yeah. The year is young, my friend. We got so much things cooking up on both of our ends, but now it's time to rock and roll. So you ready to go, HenricK the Wreck?
Yes, it's time for Pause and Repeats, and that means it's time for us to talk about video games.
Hey everyone, this is Pause or Repeat. Here we figure out whether a game is really worth your time and money. Today's game is Metaphor Refantazio. This is Atlus's latest anime-style video game that definitely takes a lot of inspiration from their previous Persona games while being a new IP altogether. It was nominated in multiple categories for the Game Awards, including Game of the Year. So let's find out what made it so great despite not winning by taking a look at the gameplay. The gameplay of Metaphor Refantazio pulls systems used in other Atlus RPGs, especially Persona. It's a hybrid mix of real-time combat and turn-based, but the focus is on the turn-based combat. The real-time combat is used in the overworld and allows your party to potentially get a jump on enemies by hitting them first, or take them out completely without having to initiate turn-based combat. In turn-based combat, you control the protagonist as well as his companions as you would in any other turn-based game. The abilities each character has will depend on which archetype you have enabled for them, of which there are 46 to unlock, starting with 3 given by default. They range from warrior to mage to gunner and much, much more, and are unlocked by creating a bond between the protagonist and characters in the story. Speaking of the story, let's dive into that. The story follows the protagonist in a fictional fantasy world. Centered around the United Kingdom of Uchronia, tension is high after the assassination of the king and monsters running rampant. This is on top of the many tribes or races of the world holding prejudice and discrimination towards each other. With the king dead, the prince is the birthright to the throne, but he is cursed to slumber and eventually die. It is up to the protagonist, part of the resistance protecting the prince, to return order to the throne by setting out on a quest to awaken the prince. But now the question still stands. Pause or repeat?
You know, for once, we're not playing as teenagers in an Atlas game, which is something that a lot of people are definitely happy about, because this has an entirely different feel. And I'm sure even the Atlas developers are happy that for once they can do something different than Persona.
Yeah. That's very, very true, man. I mean, from the minds that gave us Persona 3, 4, and 5 comes Metaphor Refantazio, a fantasy RPG where you and your fairy sidekick, Gallica, set out to uncurse a lost prince. So, like, just as HenricK was referencing, think of it as Persona with fewer high school crushes and more magical politics. Whether, you know, a lot of the DEI people might be going, oh, no! I mean, it's really not that bad. It's not nothing of that kind of nature. You're not getting none of that, like, the Veil Guard, per se, the Bond.
Yeah, it's not to that extent.
Nothing of that. I mean, it's no different than when you're watching, you know, your fantasy sci-fis like the world of Star Wars, right? You're always going to get a little sense of politics. How do you create Skyrim without a little bit of, you know, political conflict, right? So, like, that's what this game aims for.
I mean, the story does revolve around an election, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not so much like in your face of like, oh, you know, we're gonna have to sit down and have a whole Congress meeting, right? It's not like that.
Yeah, no,
not
not
this
at all.
kind of game.
No, I mean, the game delivers solid RPG mechanics and an impressive new world. And I think it's important to remember, too, while it boasts about strong gameplay and Atlas signature storytelling, can we just get right to it, HenricK? I mean, let's be real. This is a $70 game with 2010 graphics. I mean, didn't this remind you it should have been something that could have worked really, really well on the PS3? I mean, sometimes I felt like I was playing a fancy mobile game.
Chris, you do realize that animation like they have in this costs a lot of money. It's not like they skimped out on the art style.
Yeah, it just felt like, for me at least, like, I get it. It's definitely about the art direction, but if it were about the graphical fidelity, I would be filing a missing person report. You know what I mean? Because, like, Metaphor Refantazio feels like it wandered out of class and skipped out on every lecture on bold choices and handed in a project labeled high school diorama. That's how I felt.
This is also for our viewers from the person who's like, you know, games like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, I don't like their art style. You're always like this, Chris, all right?
Okay, fair. And that is definitely the vocal tone that I have brought out over the last year. But it's just like, it just feels like this kind of style game could have worked on an indie kind of style budget for the consumer. That's kind of where I'm going at. It's like, I just felt like, where do they justify the $70 mark? Just because of the success of the Persona series that we all have to, like, give it? I feel like that was a little bit of a gripe, but you know, let's go back to the gameplay, you know, because that was just like one little tiny anecdote.
A lot of worth in the game, you know, even if you're going to say, yeah, the art style doesn't seem like it's worth it, the worth of the game really is in the story and the characters, because the characters are written really well.
Okay,
and
the characters
so is the story.
Okay, the characters are cool. Don't get me wrong. The story is nice, but did you really like grinding out over and over and over again? I felt like that was the game's unofficial tagline, because the bosses hit harder than an ex's text at 2 a.m. If you know what I mean, gamers out there. I mean, figuring out how much grinding is enough trial and error circus that I was already almost about to tap out, because it felt like you just had to constantly go into these repetitive dungeons and bounties, and they felt like they were like reheated leftovers. And I'm like, yeah, they technically work, but I wasn't like too thrilled about having to do that, because you really can't progress in this story without having to go down these dungeons and bounty routes. But what do you have to say about stuff like that?
That's kind of the expected experience from a JRPG. I mean, that's how it's been ever since the genre was initiated. You know, you go into this game expecting some level of grinding at some point, whether that means, you know, depending on the game, it might actually mean going out and just, trying to get into random encounters. But this game actually does a pretty good job of preventing you from having to go do that, as long as you're keeping up with your side quests and, exploring enough at least, then you're going to be around the right level for doing any of the main story missions that you're supposed to be doing. So you really just have to keep your eyes open for the side missions, which, granted, I get it. Not everyone wants to do side missions when the main storyline quest is right there in their quest log and they can go do it right away. But the game really doesn't want you to go do that, because that's going to be where you then find yourself grinding.
And so, that's why it felt so tasking, HenricK. And then, I will say, too, I mean, it was a good spin-off with the familiar Persona mechanics, but instead of, Personas, you're dealing with archetypes, which, kind of feels like the same dish with the new garnish, if you know what I mean. But, you were hinting at it. I think we can both agree, the story is what's going to sell it for gamers, while touching at times, it has more of an unnecessary twist than a soap opera. And I mean, Rella, seriously, you know what I mean? But some plot decisions that just toss the central premise out the window. And I'm looking at you, Lewis. So for some people, they might feel like this is a unique journey, blending in the novel ideas with familiar gameplay that we all love from Persona. But I don't know, HenricK, I just kind of felt like it was a pause. It reminds us of the power of stories to inspire hope, but with its outdated design. And to me, it kind of felt like it fumbled a bit in execution. It's more of a one-time read than a timeless classic. But I can definitely see Atlas, wanting to revisit it. I mean, there's clearly, a large fan base that is embracing the new direction, going into this fairy tale kind of a route. But I'm curious on how you feel about this. Do you feel like this will be a timeless classic?
Yeah, I am a fan of JRPGs, and I do feel like this game has a place in people's libraries if they're a fan of the genre. It's just you really have to be a fan of the genre, especially when this game has its first several hours feel kind of slow compared to the rest of the game, because it really does take a few hours for you to get to the point where, okay, now the world is open for me to actually do things like I would expect from this genre of game. At the same time, that's very typical for this genre of JRPG. It's not a standout in terms of anything like that, but that is a little disappointing considering it is a new IP. They could have definitely done something different. And I am interested to see what happens with a sequel, because they are interested in doing one, or at least a spin-off title inside this universe. So that would be interesting to see. But when it comes to this one,
come on, HenricK.
It's a bit of a pause for me.
Just say, I was like, you danced around that answer so much,
not
man.
Something that I'm eager to revisit anytime soon, unfortunately.
Right, come on. Thank you. I mean, it's fun. It's cool. When it goes on sale a little bit, that's when I would jump on it. I think that the $70 price tag is so outrageous. It's just the fact that you are a celebrated, developer or publisher. For the love of gamers, please, if you want us to embrace your new story IP, you gotta work with us a little bit in a sense. But then again, I could be so ass backwards, and that's why we love hearing from you, the gamers. So please join along for the conversation. What is your verdict? Do you feel like this is a pause to play something else, or do you think this is a repeat? Are you really excited for the future?
Because, this game did get nominated for Game of the Year. Clearly people like it, and I liked it too, just not enough to want to play through the
Or was it one of those,
again.
The conspiracy theories all over again? Was that another one of those questionable nominations? that probably shouldn't have been there.
But maybe not for this one, Chris.
Yeah, probably not. Okay. Hey, but we got so much more here left on Rage Quit Video Game Talk Show. So, HenricK the Wreck, are you ready to rock and roll?
Oh, yeah. So we got plenty to talk about. So let's just jump right into that.
Hey, let's get it. What's good, listeners? Welcome to Patch Notes, where my co-host HenricK the Wreck and I discuss gaming news, industry talk, and so much more. Let's get it. The Consumer Tech Show isn't exactly the Coachella of gaming announcements, but the heavy hitters save their surprises for summer or winter, and new consoles prefer a dramatic spring or fall debut. But hey, sometimes that's a blessing in disguise because small creators get to shine while the rest of us brace for yet another round of tech companies shoving unnecessary AI into our already too busy lives. So let's dive in. This is, we're going to be breaking down a lot of cool tech. So first up, gaming on phones. Love it or hate it, that's the future, okay? So a 20-year-old YouTuber, Josh King, is leading the charge. He introduced the M-Con controller, as you can see on screen. Why does this controller make it so different compared to others out there on the market? Well, a MagSafe enabled gadget that basically turns your phone into a Nintendo DS. It's pretty similar to that kind of style of mechanics. So unlike other phone controllers, you don't have to wrestle your phone out of its case like it's an angry toddler. Just snap it on like a MagSafe power, bank, and boom, you're gaming. So like HenricK, do you vibe with this? Do you think this is cool? Do you think this is going to be like a really good step forward when it comes to mobile gaming and potentially breaking away from, you know, what we know as like the Steam Decks of the world? Is this like one good push?
Yeah, actually why this blew up so much on social media, even to the point where I saw it on social media before it even got brought up at CES, is the fact of the convenience behind it.
Yes.
You literally just take your phone and you take this, you snap it on there, you open it up, and boom, you're ready to play. That's really, really cool. And it's not just for iPhones. It was designed for an iPhone, but it is also available for Android phones. And that gives the option for basically any phone out there to be used with this, which is, actually kind of crazy that no one's done this yet. So,
well, I mean, you think of the backbones,
really banking
right?
on the fact that it's a niche of the market of controllers for a phone,
but it makes it more accessible.
Haven't been done yet.
Yeah, right. I mean, we've seen the backbones, those kind of style of products as well.
But even it's you snap it in to your phone, and if you have a case on, you're probably not going to be able to use it.
It feels like Microsoft, aka Xbox, is like really excited. They're like, cool, we didn't even have to think of a controller. Once we just drop it, on your app store, you guys will be ready to rock and roll. Because
maybe they'll want to actually partner with them because of this.
They've been talking about, how they've been partnering up with investors and etc. And I think it's going for about $100 right now on its GoFundMe thing. So yeah, really, really cool. So if you want to invest and do pre-orders, by all means, it's there right now. But let's go into the next one because this was kind of wild. Because let's talk about backseating, the streamer's favorite nightmare. Have you ever been stuck in a game only to have the chat swarm in with unsolicited pro tips? Well, here you are. Enter Razer Project Ava. You're probably wondering, what the hell am I looking on screen? Well, it's your very own AI backseater. This is basically like the chart of like everything that it's studying behind you as it watches you play, yells tips over your in-game audio, and generally does it best impression over an overzealous Twitch chat. Okay, so Razer insists it's not cheating because Ava can only use info you already have. So sure, but does it come with the mute button? I mean, I feel like that would be so freaking annoying. Are you vibing? That was my mistake. I actually hit a button on my keyboard.
You're good. I mean, in regards to this, it, I guess, is an interesting implementation of AI. It's kind of like having the buddy playing with you next to you who's already played the game. But at the same time, does that kind of ruin the experience for you? I mean, if I'm playing a game like Elden Ring and I have a buddy in my ear saying, yeah, bro, go over here and do this thing, I'm no longer playing the game because the whole point of that game is to explore and figure it out myself.
Yeah, I wonder what these gaming studios know what we don't know, because I feel like this was something that Sony was trying to grasp about. Like they implemented a feature on the PS5 that was essentially saying, like, look, we don't want you guys to have to feel the need to go to YouTube to watch a video to get past this God of War Ragnarok puzzle. We would rather have you stay on the console and we will show you guys other gameplay clips that will show you how to bypass it. So, I mean, this is probably...
Or be very overzealous in having your companion in that game, your son Atreus, telling you hints on where to go and what to look at.
But like, isn't that
Or the yellow
fun?
paint, that
But
thing
isn't that the
also.
fun of? Yeah, this is the new yellow paint. Holy cow! I didn't even think about it like that. But hey, we might as well keep this thing moving. Speaking of hardware, the Lenovo Legion Go S is turning heads because the first handheld not made by Valve to use Steam OS. So think of it as the Steam Deck with Lenovo Flare. And yes, it's portable, customizable, and probably capable of running Skyrim for the millionth time. And but on a side note too, did you see that other story where like Doom can now run on a PDF file?
Oh yeah, it's really cool, really cool. But I mean, Doom can run on anything at this point.
On anything, and I guarantee it can run on this device as well. But like, break down like why this is so like groundbreaking.
Yeah, so I'm excited for people to actually have more options for playing on a Steam Deck like experience. I mean, I have my Steam Deck here. I play it pretty often, and it's a great experience. It's basically the closest to getting a console type experience with a PC or PC handheld. Because even the Windows handhelds like the ROG Ally and all that, it's bogged down by the fact of running Windows. So the fact that this is another option aside from the Steam Deck is great. And they're also making it alongside this push an option that you'll soon be able to put this on your own computer, your own Steam OS machine, essentially, and get the same sort of experience as you would on a Steam Deck. And hey, you know what? Maybe this isn't something you'd be willing to do, but any opportunity for there to be competition in this space against Microsoft means a win for you, even if you stay on Windows.
Well, I mean, and Steam is so dominant when it comes to becoming a game launcher, and to be able to bring your, essentially your Steam library into, different devices, I think that's a win for all gamers, right? I mean, we always preach about how we always can't stand the idea of exclusive gaming, right? When it comes to Spider-Man 2 and how we have to wait an extended period of time like Indiana Jones and Xbox decided to do for the PS5, right? Hey, if you want to play it on day one, you better join us. Well, this basically is saying we're going to be shattering the glass, we're going to be jumping through the windows, hopping over fences, and we're going to be delivering that game to you almost like we're an Amazon Prime delivery guy on the holidays, okay? We know you, we respect you, we love you for delivering on time. But like, let's go into another one because it seemed like also AI was very prominent during this event. And so Nvidia is redefining the battle royale genre with AI teammates in PUBG. Are we still playing PUBG? I mean, they're calling them co-player.
Super popular.
I mean, apparently, and they're calling them co-playable characters, but let's be real, they're just bots, fancy bots, okay? These AI buddies can grab loot, cover you in fights, and generally make you feel less lonely in the wasteland. So is it weird? Yes. Oh, will it be hilarious when your bot forgets to revive you? Absolutely. But do you find this as a win? Is this really innovative? I mean, my first reaction was Fortnite's already been doing this. I mean, it's no different than when you have a bunch of credit and buy, a bot on the land.
Yeah, it's not anything new. We've always had AI in games, even multiplayer games already have had this option, like you're saying, in Fortnite. But maybe this is them saying, yeah, give it more of a chance because, now we have bigger AI models to feed these AI characters, and maybe they'll be a little bit better at actually covering you when you're trying to grab loot or anything like that in these games.
True. I
will say, though, every time this sort of thing comes out, it ends up, there's some clips online of people abusing AI. And let me just warn you guys, when our AI overlords take over, they're going to keep that in mind. They're going to remember that.
These AI oligarchs that we don't know their faces, these nameless souls. But yeah, it's definitely, I feel like this would probably work better in a single player experience. I feel like that's just me.
Definitely.
But like in multiplayer, I understand you got to try to start somewhere. So, I mean, obviously they're starting off with PUBG Ally. That's kind of their big thing. And obviously you can see with some of these other gaming titles on screen, that's where they're going to be implemented. So I'm sure Nvidia's going to be partnering up with other gaming studios to try to bring this experience to more gamers. But also, it didn't stop there. Let's talk about yesification? This is something that critics coined the term for those wild Photoshop edits that make that rugged apocalypse surviving female protagonist look like they just got that full glam makeover. I know you all saw it, gamers, Alloy, and everybody was like, I'll make her more prettier. Or, Star Wars Outlaw. This is how they should have done it. They should have made it look more like the actress like she was in real life. Well, Navita, clearly keeping up with the memes, debuted RTX Neural Faces. And so it's basically an AI-driven glow-up filter for NPCs. So natural lighting, realistic hair, the joke about the new Naughty Dog game, bald. Well, Navita's got that all covered for you, apparently. And flawless skin. Your NPCs are about to look so good, they'll steal your thunder in cutscene. So is this a win, HenricK? Maybe I might need to use this for my next run through of Metaphor.
Yeah, does it make the graphics just look better?
I know. I'm sold.
NVIDIA comes up with interesting things, but also they come up with things like this where it's like, who asked for this? I didn't ask for this. I don't know anyone who would have asked for this. And I guess, the option's there, but who's really going to use it outside of making a meme or two?
I almost feel like it's not good. They're going to utilize this technology first with video games. And then I have a weird feeling, HenricK, this kind of style of AI technology is only going to be utilized with like us small content creators and streamers. We've seen in the past where Navita has tried to implement features where it's like, hey, do you have a problem looking inside the camera? Are you afraid to look in the camera lens because you're a little camera shy? Well, we have this feature where it makes you look like your eyeballs are always looking at the screen at all times. So like, hey, I don't want to put makeup on. Can you study my face? I mean, you see stuff like that all the time. I mean, didn't TikTok, I know it might be banned on Sunday, but TikTok, it has that like weird avatar feature. They're like, hey, do you want us to make like an avatar AI picture of you and then blah blah blah, and you're like, no, I don't. Like, that's weird. Like, I don't need you face scanning me. But there's always going to be those kind of weird gimmicks. I mean, especially like with this last product that we saw at the event, which is height. It's like, what if your PC case wasn't just a box? Well, let's go ahead and show that clip, HenricK, because like, wow, enter the height Nexus powered cases with front-facing touchscreens. These aren't just for show. They can control media, launch apps, and probably remind you to drink water. So it's a flashy way to upgrade your setup, assuming you're okay with your PC being smarter than you. But I guess that's the real question, like we joked earlier. Can it run Doom?
I'm sure this can.
I mean, I've already been seeing clips like the next day after this whole tech event where like people are already like, we're like, hey, I got like 4 screens in front of me. I can't find my Space Marine 2. And then all of a sudden it's on your literally your
small screen on your case. Yeah.
It does kind of remind me though. I mean, we're laughing about this, HenricK, but like, PC gamers got so excited about like RGB lights inside their own PC mounts. You know what I mean? So like when you do throw a touchscreen on this, I mean, do you feel like they'll utilize it in some kind of cool way? I mean, I am looking at my Elgato Stream Deck. I mean, could they utilize that in a sense to be able to make it like a touchscreen to go to your lighting source that maybe is connected to your USB connection? But then again, I don't know where the gaming comes in. I just know that it's cool and it's fancy.
It's just a little computer case bling. That's all it really is. It's the same idea as like case lighting. And I mean, I'm someone who builds computers a lot for work. And man, I'm starting to not really like RGB. And this is probably going to be a nightmare to cable manage, this whole screen on the case. So, I'm actually to the point where I don't need all that. At this point, my next build for myself is going to be a stealth build, no lights, no fancy gimmicks, just function. And that's it.
No, I think, HenricK, I think you're missing the point. I think that this new touchscreen is going to let you know how to change or when to change your water out from your water fan cooling system. See, there's where the plus comes in when it comes to your gaming. But so that is CES for you. It's a mix of innovative ideas, questionable AI applications, and gadgets that make you wonder if we're all secretly living in a Black Mirror episode. So game on. But HenricK, let's continue this conversation. Break down the also quite eye-popping news.
Yeah, big shout out to GameFile's Stephen Totilo, who apparently has eagle vision when it comes to court filings.
Yeah,
and why do I say that? Well, it involves Call of Duty, actually, because the man unearthed some jaw-dropping info about the cost of 3 Call of Duty games made between 2015 and 2020. Spoiler alert, Activision's spending habits make your impulsive Steam purchases look responsible. I love hearing that. But, we have the dirt, and it's tucked into a lawsuit related to the Uvalde, Texas elementary school shooting. Turns out Activision's spending on Black Ops 3,
$450 million,
Modern Warfare,
$640 million,
and Black Ops Cold War,
get this, $700 million.
makes them the priciest games ever made, at least among
Crazy.
those bold enough to share receipts, because
That's very true.
who would want to say that they spent that much money and then it fails or something, right?
Very true.
Well, these eye-watering figures include post-launch content, though, and that means every battle pass, DLC, microtransaction, all that, it's all on the tab. So
Yep.
keep that in mind. It's not like just the development costs of the base game. It makes a little bit more sense. But of
Right.
course, gamers flooded the internet over this ballooning development costs that we've now seen with the following comments.
Yeah, so let's get right on into it, because the first comment that we got here is, in every single match I play, there's at least one person who has purchased a $20 skin. Maybe they do that on purpose. Maybe they want you to feel left out.
Yeah, it's the whole experience of FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yeah, instead of like fixing the actual gameplay, because they know that you're still going to keep playing even though you keep bitching about it. They're going to just go, hey, listen, look, we're just going to tell the algorithm in the game to be able to kind of feed you content that you don't have and make you kind of have that FOMO experience. That's what Epic Games does so well in the Fortnite universe. And so you got this person that says, Switch. They ultimately spent over $700 million in development cost over the game's life cycle. So over the game's life cycle, just like how we were kind of referencing, the guy's going, dude, you have to take into account that the marketing, the initial development cost, maintenance, patches, bug fixes, live content updates, server, infrastructure cost, etc. No. Yeah, I think those are all very, very fair points, but it is still kind of very groundbreaking that it's outpacing a lot of blockbuster films. Just to kind of put that into perspective. I mean, this is a shit ton of money. 30 million copies of Modern Warfare sold at $60 retail. Take off 30% for the realtor cut. That's $1.26 billion. Assuming they borrowed the full $640 million at the start of the 3-year development cycle, that's double the money in 3 years, which is on return investment of well over 20%. Not too bad, really. And another person followed up, and that's before the microtransactions. So some people are kind of having a hard time figuring out whether that's the case or not. From our understanding, though, it is taking into account those regrettable microtransactions. So that is very, very insane. The another one that we got here is, I thought I read somewhere that they actively match players without skins to players with skins in the hopes that they would see them and then want to purchase them as well. See, I was kind of suggesting that a little bit. I mean, they actively match worse players without skins to players that bought skins to feed people into feeling they're playing better with skins on top of what you said. They're predatory as F. I mean, does this really surprise people? I mean, we're seeing headlines for the last couple weeks, HenricK, with Marvel Rivals where people are bitching and complaining about, they're like, dude, why do we have bots in our gameplay? What the hell is going on? And, people are trying to identify what's a bot or not with these fake gamer tags. I mean,
yeah.
Of course Activision's gonna do this kind of ploy. Why
it's all
wouldn't
about
they?
Gaming retention. They want you to not ever leave the game and just keep playing. So there's all sorts of tactics that they use, this included.
Absolutely. And $700 million on Cold War is insane. I really enjoyed that game, but surely it could have been just as fun with a quarter of the budget. They're not particularly innovative games. Where is the money going? And people are like, dude, it's marketing. I mean, it could be a mix of things. I mean, these are massive, this is a massive company.
Yeah.
They got a lot of different branches, man. I mean, they're not just necessarily just focused on just the story experience and multiplayer experience, just like how some people were saying, the infrastructure, the server, the patches, the bug fixes. I mean, that
and
all
at least
costs.
They're making money on it. They're making money on their investment in regards to how much money they make back after the game's life cycle, because then it would be a not great figure to look at, that you're seeing these huge numbers. But it wasn't Concord. It wasn't that experience for them. Call of Duty is a very successful franchise, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, and I mean, people are all, in shock about this. I mean, wait until GTA 6 comes out with the GTA Online experience. I mean, people are expecting them to pull in over $2 billion with that movement. And easily, right? That is insane. I've had like 10 times the enjoyment from some indie games that cost less than $100,000, and everything's subjective. I enjoy the odd Call of Duty releases here and there, so do millions of other people. So some don't enjoy indie. And yeah, I mean, it's fair enough. Like, some people just don't look for that experience. And I think that's kind of the arouse with indie gaming, is where you're gonna stumble upon a game where you're going, holy cow, that was like one of the best experiences in a long time with some fresh IP. But HenricK, going back to this, it's like, did you expect Call of Duty games to have the budgets that dwarf even blockbuster films? And do massive budgets make gaming better, or are they just inflating expectations?
In a way, it definitely inflates expectations, and also probably feeds into the whole mix of the rise of game costs, going from $60 to $70, and then wanting to even charge more than $70 for the game up front, on top of the microtransaction costs, because they have to make their money back somehow, right? And that's their justification at that point. But it also makes sense, considering that they're, when you think about it, these games, they have huge teams working on them. And not even just development teams. You're talking also executive teams, and then also marketing teams, and teams for
PR
patching afterwards, and everything. And then, on top of that, they're using all the latest technology that they want to put into these games for like motion capture, everything like that. It's gonna add up.
But it's still very popping.
Easily.
It's still like, whoa, like it's
because we thought that 200 million for The Last of Us 2 was a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
But clearly it's not.
And Horizon Forbidden West was 200 million. Well, I would actually argue it is, because for
it
them,
is, but
Sony,
not in comparison to this.
Yeah, right. Well, the only reason I feel like it could work, because we heard the announcement, even from Sony, that they're going to turn the Horizon Forbidden West into a cinematic experience. So to them, they could say, what, that gamble definitely paid off for us. It's like The Last of Us. They're about to be getting season 2 very, very soon in the year 2025. So like, all that kind of investment going towards those video games are working out for them. And then you also remember, we covered even last year, Marvel Spider-Man 2, $300 million budget.
Yep.
And, as much as I had a lot of fun playing the second game, you're going, $300 million, the city really didn't change much. So, like, where's all that money going towards, And no DLC experience even after the fact, when we got not 1, not 2, but 3 in the first game? I mean, that's crazy to me.
I'll tell you where the marketing budget for that went. It went towards the marketing of that 18 inches of Venom.
No, you're so right. And like all that cinematic thing of like never showing his face, and they constantly kept hinting that the Green Goblin was coming. Hopefully, I'm not spoiling it for anybody. It's been out for quite a while, but like you're just going like, where are we going with this? And so like, yeah, I mean, it's definitely like very popping. But I want to know from you gamers, like that same exact question. Do you feel that massive budgets make gaming better, or are they just inflating expectations? Let us know what's good. But hey, I think, this is another great industry talk, because I don't think it's actually being discussed enough. And so let's break it down. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau wants to make your virtual currencies like Robux safer, proposing a rule to protect in-game funds as if they were real-world cash. So the rule would require companies to handle issues like scams, account theft, and unauthorized transactions, or face federal violations. So the move comes after floods of complaints to the CFPP and the FTC about limited recourse for gamers when virtual cash goes missing. So Roblox, for instance, tells users with unauthorized charges to just contact customer support before disputing with their banks. So they want to change that, because they feel like that's not going to work out. So interestingly, though, you got to take this into account, gamers. Games like Fortnite might sidestep the rule since its V-Bucks don't involve conversions or transfers, but this could still set a new standard for the gaming industry. So gamers, of course, had plenty to say about the proposal with the following. So let's go ahead and dive into the first comment, which is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, a government agency tasked with ensuring that people are treated fairly by banks, believes games have grown to function like banking/payment systems, and it's proposing a rule that would require companies to act like it. HenricK, I'm curious on like how you view this. Do you feel as though games have started to, as this Nathan has suggested, to function like a banking/payment system?
Well, you're paying for a service when it comes down to it, and digital goods, depending on the game and what you're buying. But I definitely see why they would want this to be what it is, based on the fact that probably the people leading this charge are parents who had their kid take their credit card and spend a couple $100s on transactions in games or what have you on their phone or on a video game, and all of a sudden now you got to go fight their customer service, and hey, they don't have the infrastructure for that, I guarantee you, to actually, help these parents get their money back, because they want to keep that money. They don't want to give it back.
Yeah, very true. I mean, and then you got people like this that go, they're going to tax my Robux. No, I don't think that's how it's.
I don't think that's how it's going to be.
No, I would sure as hope it doesn't. The next comment we got here is, oh boy, depending on how far this goes and the consequences for Roblox, when someone does something bad, Game Passes and developers' products could, quote unquote, be locked behind ID verification. Really depends on how close the ramifications become to straight credit card processing. I mean, is this like no different than like the Hawk Tua coin like 3 weeks ago? I mean, were people like all pissed off in the whole like Bitcoin world when this girl like did you guys dirty, and then all of a sudden, the coin value just completely dropped? So like, where do you go?
Up and down.
Yeah, do you run to the Hawk Tua girl and call her customer support phone line?
Yeah, what
and say,
customer support?
Hey, right. And so like, at least you get the luxury in the Bitcoin and Ethereum world to be able to go and file to your banks to go after them, to then potentially hit them at the federal level. Yeah, I mean, I to me this just seems like a no-brainer, especially like Roblox, for example, as we covered last year. You got gamers that are like using this children game for something like utilizing the Robux to be used as poker chips.
Yeah, to gamble with them.
That's crazy. And so, yeah, I think they are going to start to crack down on this because, yeah, there are account thefts, because if you do invest a lot into Roblox, we're going to take your Robux to be able to use it for poker or the likes of, gosh, I don't know what else we would use this for. But anyways, let's move it along, because can I use my Robux to make my car payments? Wouldn't it be, I mean, what is this, Ecuador, where you're using Bitcoin to go to a Starbucks?
It would be really interesting if that happens, if you could actually do that, because if there's any ways to like earn in-game currency, that means that you could actually play games and make real currency, guys.
Bro, how wild would that be? I mean, especially when we highlighted last year with the whole Roblox, partnering up with IKEA, and they were looking for gamers to fill in their in-game store and to buy product in this virtual space, this metaverse that Mark Zuckerberg never was able to reach, as of yet. And so, like, could you imagine using Robux to pay for an IKEA furniture and then shows up at your door within the next week using Robux? Wild, HenricK. I think you're onto something. And well, at the moment, you don't even properly own Robux. All you have is limited, non-refundable, non-transferable, oh my god, right to use Robux. So this would be a step up, I guess. So like, some people see, the pros and a little bit of the cons to it. And last, just let the government into your heart. Yes, others just go, man, you got to always question those kind of style of things. But HenricK, are we ready for a future where your bank calls to ask, did you really mean to spend $500 on Robux? Oh, wait, that was an old image.
Yeah.
Did you really mean to spend $500 on Robux, or was that fraud? And are we ready to start hearing the likes of Bank of America opening up a Roblox branch? No, I'm just kidding. That's never going to happen. But, it is kind of wild to think that, we are starting to take focus at virtual currency, not just in Bitcoin, but in video game space. I mean, it is pretty wild.
I believe that there is a place for this in some respect. I mean, I'm not a parent, but I definitely can feel for the parents that, their kid takes a credit card and spends all their money on
But I don't even think it's just that,
but it's
though.
not just that. Yeah, it's not just that. It's also just, you as the consumer would actually have some protection on the currency that you have in these games if this sort of thing went in past.
Well, especially if you get account theft and then you have your credit card linked to your gamer account, they steal your identity and then they dump money into the game to then be able to, just pump and dump. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Grab your money, throw it into a poker system, or be able to transfer it to a different account because you just traded it away, wonk on wonk, and then maybe hackers are good, man. Like this is just my mind feeling like I'm going Ocean 11s or something. But like I can see how people can definitely manipulate this system. So you got to protect the adults and you got to protect the young kids. And by all means, if you're a parent buying your kid Robux, holy cow,
Yeah,
like
the only thing that I could see maybe this not happening is because of a lot of pushback from the developers and studios themselves.
Sure.
I mean, and also just because when you look at a big game like World of Warcraft, there's so many bots in that game that are farming materials in the game to then sell the in-game currency for real money, essentially. And Blizzard hasn't come out and said, we support this. They've actually said, no, we don't support that. Don't do it. But when it comes down to it, with the amount of bots that are there, it's either one of two things. Either you just don't care, or you don't have the infrastructure to care in the first place. So when you have a situation like that, how is this going to affect that? Like, I think it's just going to feed into that, if anything.
Yeah, and I also, as you're like speaking to it, also kind of like makes me wonder, like, too, as we know that like Xbox is bringing their Game Pass to mobile devices and etc. Whether the U.S. government wants to kind of get a jump on that. I think because I am a PlayStation gamer on my PS5, and as you do buy content through the digital store, you do get PlayStation credit to be able to use that in the PS Store, right? So, there are probably ways where they're going, oh, wow, well, there's a lot of these new coins, tokens, whatever new terminology they want to throw at you, like V-Bucks. And then maybe they want to get a hold of that, especially the ones where you can, trade and converse and etc. And so that's really what they're tackling. But then again, that's where you, the gamers, come in. Are you vibing with the idea that the federal government will get involved, or do you like that this is a good way to be able to protect you, the consumer, by not having to reach out to a customer support line? And just like how everybody was complaining about, where can I find my canceled gym membership on this website? Why do I gotta walk in to then go down this long, just annoying, gruesome conversation with this dude like, cancel me now before I rip you off the other end of that desk? But anyways, I will keep my cool. But hey, let's go into a next one because let's have some fun towards the end of the show.
Yeah, it's time to wade back into the chaos with another Reddit debate. This time, a gamer let loose with the quote, "I'm so tired of extra launchers." Aren't we all? Forcing me to install another bloated app and sign up for yet another account just to play a game I supposedly own is an instant deal breaker.
Definitely feels like that.
And judging by the replies, they're not alone. because gamers are sounding off in full force. Let's see what they have to say.
Yeah, let's go right on into it because, the first comment that we got here is the worst part is that most launchers also require an internet connection to verify something just to start the game. And with so many companies going on about how handhelds are the future, they sure do a lot of shit that makes their games unusable in a lot of handheld situations, like being on the go and probably without Wi-Fi. That's why people can't stand live service games like Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, and you got to settle for a 2D animation to end the season. Holy cow. It's so sad to see stuff like that because I really wanted that game to be really, really good. And I feel bad for the people that worked on that game. But you know what? That's what happens when you come up with stupid, incompetent ideas that Warner Brothers pushed on that studio. But let's keep it moving. Developers have been working to normalize quote unquote always online for several years now. There's only one real reason that requires internet for single player game to display live ads. And they're coming to mainstream games. It's only a matter of time. What? I'm sorry. I guess I'm having a hard time.
You can't even say anything because I think it's true.
Is it true? I'm trying to think of what single player game shows live ads. Other than if you're doing a race car game. Like
we saw that Ubisoft was wanting to do this.
Okay, that's true.
They all want to do that if they can. It's just a matter of time for a game to do it and make it, normalized.
Wow, yeah. I wonder if GTA will ever break, that uncanny valley.
That actually might be the one to do it first.
That sounds horrible, like a Mickey D's, and you're like, man, dude, should we just go rob this drive? All right, enough of that. This is too real. Right now, I have a Steam, the EA launcher, the Epic Games launcher, the GOG launcher, Blizzard launcher, and the Riot's Games client. It's insane. Just for a handful of games too. Yeah, I gotta say, I think that is kind of the number one thing that draws me away from PC gaming a lot of the time. It's like you do kind of get overwhelmed in a sense. And I don't know about you, HenricK, but doesn't it get so freaking annoying after a while? Every time you load up your PC, BattleNet is always the first thing that shows up immediately.
I shut that off.
Yeah, it took me a while to figure that out, but I'm sure there's a lot of PC gamers here that went through that same struggle, and you're like, dude, get out of my way.
Yeah, this is the exact reason why when games don't come out on Steam, they don't perform well.
Yeah. But then again, people do, don't want a monopoly of sorts, and that we want to be able to have, free market, and be able to have different routes to go to, but then, that we bitch about stuff like this. Gotta love it. Launcher is one thing, but now even on console, I'm finding I'm being forced to make an account to play a single-player story mode for games.
Very true.
Why? Yeah, you think of Ubisoft. Ubisoft would try to push you into that Ubisoft Plus, and then there was ways where you can bounce around that. I'm even forgetting the new way you got to go through with It's always multiplayer, always. Yeah, I'm thinking of Marvel Rivals. I'm like, why? Why do I got to sign up for your new thing? It's like all you feel is that you want more data out of me. Probably.
No, that's what it is.
Yeah.
They want more money and more data out of you.
Yeah,
they can get it somehow.
It's such a scummy, weird experience. And I would like to make a positive shout out to 2K Games, Civ franchise. They recently updated their games to actually get rid of their launcher, having listened to the overwhelmingly negative feedback on launchers. So,
we respect this.
You know what? Golfer clap for you.
And you know what? Actually, with more handhelds like the Steam Deck coming out, Valve is pushing more developers to get rid of the launchers that pop up when you own a game on Steam, because it'll happen sometimes where you own a game from Ubisoft or something and you own it on Steam. You open it up on Steam and it's still opening up launcher.
Yeah, I know, dude.
Come on, man. I already have it on Steam. I got it there because I didn't want to deal with your launcher.
Yeah, how much more support do you need? I'm playing your game. Oh, holy cow. And I'm fine with the multiple launchers. Have you youngins had to swap disc in the middle of winter with no shoes going uphill both ways? I'm confused on where you stored your games, first off. I am
really. It was in the shed outside.
I know. And then this guy follows up by going, and some asshole who rented it before you scratched the third disc. So he's probably talking about his local, Blockbuster.
Like a Blockbuster.
But could you imagine having to store all those floppy disks too and having to use that as gaming? So, I guess we truly got it pretty nice. But, after a while, it seems like, HenricK, I'm just wondering, like, is it really a gaming PC if it doesn't have more launchers than actual games, or are we just all collecting, digital hoops to basically have to go through?
Yeah, it's an unfortunate problem. Like you said, it is annoying. I think it's annoying also. I think that there's not a whole lot of people that really don't think it's annoying. But when it comes down to it, it is also just a factor of needing to have not a monopoly on launchers. Because even if you think you want to have Steam on your computer and that's it, and that's where you want to get your games, that's fine. But there needs to be options out there. Otherwise, Steam, if they're the only option, can have any way to charge you or the developers that are hosting their games on there for any amount of money because they're the only option.
Yeah, and they don't want to take a cut. I mean, that's the number one thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we've broken this down season by season. Essentially, like you got to understand why Epic Games, for one, is going after Apple as hard as they are. They don't want to do the 70-30 cut. They're like, screw that. We do not want to use your iOS dev kit to be able to have to bring our games to your system. We want to be able to develop our own app, to be able on your store, to be able to have people download that app, so then we can funnel all the money through there. And so that's how these other game launchers kind of feel. They want to be able to be that kind of home away from Steam. And so that's why you get these annoying multiplayer buffets of every major publisher, sipping on that poison, doing this to us. Meanwhile, I would argue, HenricK, that like single player games are chilling with Steam like we're good over here. You know what I mean? Like usually single player games, you can usually stick to Steam and you can be okay. Other than
not all the time, because there's definitely single player games that still also require you to be logged into an account.
But like HenricK,
that's a whole other issue.
But
also,
the thing is, you're the PC gamer. I'm not usually the PC gamer. You're the PC gamer. So like, I'm kind of surprised that like most of you style of gamers don't bitch and complain about this kind of style stuff. Because like, could you imagine if your smartphone forced you to juggle 10 different app stores, or your console demanded 10 exclusive game hubs just to play what you already own? I mean, there would be riots on the street. So like, why you, the PC gamer, settling for this? I mean, why have you shrugged your shoulder? Why have you not demand change? I'm
because I think we've seen it already before. I brought it up during the comments, but if a game doesn't release on Steam, people are not going to buy it. I mean, that's the whole reason that Ubisoft's titles that were launched on Ubisoft's launcher, Ubisoft Connect, didn't do very well, and they're now going back on the idea of let's launch them only on there. They're saying, you know what, actually, maybe we should put them on Steam because otherwise people are not going to buy them.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like that terrible party guest who shows up uninvited, refuses to leave, and then he blocks the door for good measures, and you're like, you're only making this worse. It's not looking good for you, buddy, and I'm talking about you, Battle.net. But, like, you're basically like Lucifer's intern, okay? Get off my damn screen. Damn you, Satan. But, like, I don't know about you gamers. Do you feel like this is not, like, something that, like, phases you, or you're like, hey, dude, man, like, Chris, I don't think you got a point, bro. Like, I don't know. Is it like take the team console pill, or is it the team PC gaming pill? Is that a breaker for you? Extra gaming launchers? Let us know what's good. But man, it's always been a blast. Always jumping on with you, HenricK the Wreck, and we always love bringing this show to you guys. So hold on to your controllers, because we will be back next Wednesday, every Wednesday, unless we tell you otherwise, at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, live on YouTube, Twitch, and Meta. And while we're at the tail end of the show, we want to just take a moment for anybody that is not like, share, subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is my QR code to follow me on my YouTube channel. Go ahead. What are you waiting for? Tell me something nice or not. I always love hearing the responses.
Yeah, and you see that QR code there? So go ahead and scan it right away because it's right there, and it'll lead you to my YouTube channel. So go subscribe there. You'll find great content, all sorts of content. So go take a look, leave a comment, and I will reply to you.
Yeah, that's what's good. And so, again, thank you for everyone that's tuning in to Rage Quit. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss a live show. And keep the gaming going all the way through to the weekend. We'll see you next week, fam. Peace.
See ya.